Maybe. Well, yeah, so like this. Are you seeing a change?
Nope.
Maybe. All right, we are live on well, yeah, so
We'll just let you introduce people then, Dave.
okay, yeah, we are live, so just no, I can't adjust how people see it on the live.
That's all right. You just you got the list there. You just introduce Glenn and then and then go from there.
All
I'm
right.
gonna be real short.
Okay. So I'm gonna be working on all sorts of stuff while you guys are talking. There's 11 people on now. Welcome, everyone. We got 21 on now. Give everyone a few minutes to hop on here.
Does somebody want to throw out any interesting facts about grouse and woodcock, or just kind of sitting here waiting for people to filter on?
Well, there's birds that I've heard from Pennsylvania, New Jersey or woodcock migration into New York. Haven't heard anything past that. Certainly there's woodcock back in Michigan, as well as Ohio, Wisconsin. But I did hear on those lines today, there was a dog trial that was scheduled for the first part of April that's been postponed till later April this year just because of snowpack in Minnesota.
Wow.
So
crazy.
Birds are coming back.
That's good. That's good. It's always I love chasing spring woodcock. It's kind of one of the, I like getting out with the guys to go banding with them, and I like, running them when they first come back. And they're a challenging bird to get pointed early on sometimes. They're, especially those males get all hopped up on hormones, and they don't tend to get off a lot of scent. I think they're great birds for dogs to do that early spring training on, I think.
Yeah. My cousin Dan just hopped on. He said he just found one a couple hours ago by his house in GR there. So
oh, cool.
They're around. They're in here.
Yeah, I always think St. Patty's Day is kind of like the time that I start to expect to see them.
If you're interested in Grand Rapids, Michigan woodcock, I believe it's April the 13th, but go to the rgs.org website under the event pages. We're going to have a woodcock walk
nice.
in Luton Park, which the interesting part of that is the Luton Park was a family farm of a gentleman by the name of Harry Luton, who was a dentist in Grand Rapids of quite acclaim, but he was also one of Michigan's first woodcock banders.
Oh, cool.
Because of growing up on this farm and having woodcock there. So it's now a nice piece of public ground in the public space. They've got walking trails, biking trails, but the Grand Rapids chapter of RGS AWS will be having a woodcock walk there in April.
Ron just said he shot 2 today. And somehow I believe him.
I remember I was at a gun shop one time talking to this guy about bird dogs, and I said, yeah, I'm so excited about the spring woodcocks. He's like, you can shoot both in the spring. I'm like, yeah, I understand that, buddy. It's just a term to go run my dogs and woodcock in the spring. Ask Ron if that's 2 more than you shot this fall.
Yeah. It wasn't over, so it was just walk-ups.
That's the line of the night.
Man, maybe if we get through our stuff, we'll get Ronnie on here. We'll send him an invite and have him join the fun.
That would be fun.
Oh,
What do you think? Time to start it?
yeah, I think we're good. We're 5 minutes in. We got 68 people on, so they're slowly filtering in here. So yeah, welcome everyone. We all kind of had this idea a couple weeks ago to have this virtual Birds and Brew, since it's kind of the season for that, and figured, we could hit a lot more people crossed everywhere, joining us virtually. So it's good to have everyone here from RGS. You can see their names up on the screen there, but got Glenn Blackwood, who is our regional development director. Now, Glenn, tell everyone, are there multiple regional directors then, or are you kind of the director?
Yeah, I think the big news that we want to talk about tonight, and we want to thank Pyke, Brent, and you, Dave, for inviting us to this event. Pyke's one of our new corporate sponsors that I've been fortunate enough to work with and known both of you gentlemen, not only as corporate sponsors or partners, but also as longtime RGS volunteers, is really the growth and what we have going on within the organization right now in RGS and AWS. I can go back and say that when being a 30-year volunteer in Michigan, where we had one employee, or RGS had one employee, to where we are now and look at our capacity, it's just amazing. As I've started this second career working with the organization and the conservation space. So joining us tonight, and everyone's going to have a chance to speak, is Kevin Sterling. Kevin is heading up our social media side of the coin and communications. If you've seen the Instagram posts, these sort of Facebook things, everything that's going out, Kevin is responsible for that. Next on your screen is Larry Partridge. Larry is based out of Grant, Michigan right now, but I think soon to be in the middle part of the state. Joined us, and he's our forest conservation coordinator, doing on-the-ground work in the Lower Peninsula and the eastern part of the UP. Next to him, joining us tonight, is Todd Waldron, who is a forest conservation director, based out of northern New York, but really does all the on-ground habitat projects from New York all the way to Maine. And then Nick Bougie, our engagement coordinator for the state of Michigan, as well as Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, is also joining us. So our capacity has really grown, since 2020. Dr. Ben Jones, who couldn't be with us here this evening, he's at the Wildlife Council meetings in St. Louis with people from the Forest Service, the USDA, Fish and Wildlife, and all sorts of state and private wildlife consultants. Sends his regrets. But, Ben said through COVID, conservation wasn't going to get canceled. And that rang hollow to a lot of people. But now in 2023, when our staffing hasn't grown, our capacity has grown, we're doing large scale landscape projects in multiple regions, from the Southern Alps to Maine, from Minnesota through Michigan into Iowa, working on really tough issues about grousing, particularly in Indiana and Ohio, and bringing this team together. When he said that, it just wasn't lip service. It was a full-on drive to do this. And I think if you look at the conservation scape right now, as I talk about our organization, there's a lot of really strong conservation organizations out there, and RGS and AWS is one of them. And they have their niches. So you can say Trout Unlimited talks about cold water fisheries. And you may say that Ducks Unlimited talks about wetlands or delta waterfowl. And there's some crossover, but RGS and AWS is the only conservation space that is really focused on forest management, forest wildlife, not only grouse and woodcock, but everything that lives in that young successional forest or young forest management space, which Larry and Todd will speak of here in a little bit. So it's an incredibly exciting time for RGS. Our curve is going up, and I think it will continue to grow with partners like Pyke Gear, like Brent and Dave and our other corporate sponsors that come into the fold, because this young forest management space that we dearly love and cherish, we're the voice for that. And our partnerships with other nonprofits and governmental entities to build up our capacity proves that in spades. So I'll shut up now and turn it over to Brent. But thank you all for joining. Again, you'll hear from Kevin, Larry, Todd, and Nick as the evening goes by. I think we're going to have some questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box, or you can reach all of us at RGS. The easiest way is through email, and our email addresses are our first name. So mine would be Glenn B at roughgrousesociety.org or Todd W at rgs.org. Please send us your comments, your questions. We will get back to you. And again, want to thank Pyke Gear tonight, and everyone who has logged into this will have an opportunity to, on behalf of Pyke Gear, our newest corporate sponsor, to get a gift card for their incredible Made in America gear. And I wear it. And it's very comfortable and very durable. So, Brent.
Well, thank you, Glenn. Again, appreciate all you guys taking time out of your evening to come on here and talk. I mean, as a 15 years volunteer to RGS, long before I ever thought about even starting Pyke Gear, it's always been a passion of mine, grouse hunting, and this is the one small way I could give back. Before we started Pyke Gear is to volunteer. So I mean, I truly recommend that anybody that's out there that, if you're not a member, become a member. If you are a member, volunteer. I mean, there's banquets, there's habitat days. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to give up a little bit of your time and treasure to help this organization that, really is fighting for the birds that we love. I mean, their habitat is shrinking. I mean, every neighborhood you see is an opportunity that grouse don't have anymore. And it's important for us to be able to protect the areas that we do have and enhance the areas that we do have. We're pretty lucky here in Michigan, in the upper Midwest, to still have abundant forests and abundant grouse and woodcock. I mean, we'd all like to see more though, right? I mean, it seems like the guys that are out there that are doing it now are more passionate than they were maybe even 20, 30 years ago. I mean, you go out on a weekend and you see trucks at tons of different spots, and that's great, but it'd be better if we had 10 times more spots and we had to worry about it, right? So yeah. Again, I would implore anybody who's watching this tonight, if you're not a member, please become a member. It's $60. I mean, it's it's a couple 12 packs of beer, not a big deal. Join. Our membership is the $60 doesn't do much for RGS. What it does do is it gives them that extra number, so if you can give more, give more. If you can't give the $60, become a member. At least we can, expand that number so people, you know, when they go to Washington and they go to our state legislators to fight for forest conservation, you know, say, hey, we've got the X number of members in the state of Michigan and they want this done. And we know politicians listen to that stuff. I mean, there is strong support amongst people when they know that they know that we're voters. So get out there, support RGS the best you can, and thank these guys that are, you know, they're working, they're getting paid, but you know what? They could be doing a lot of other things too. And they chose to work in an area where they're able to give back some too. And, you know, they work hard to hopefully make our weekends and our vacations better. So thank you guys for all you do for you know, driving this message across the landscape. And I'm super excited for you guys to share some of the stuff that's going on out there, because I think that's really my goal for tonight, is for the people out there that aren't members and aren't volunteers, that haven't heard all the great things that RGS has been doing over the last, you know, 50 years, but in particular the last 3 or 4 years. There's some exciting stuff out there, and there's great reasons to join and to be a part of this and to be excited about what's going on. And let's, you know, the ball's moving. Let's get that thing going bigger and let's get it going faster. So thank you, gentlemen.
And I'm going to jump in real quick and just let everyone that's on live right now know, we have our spring membership drive going on right now. And we'll actually put a link in the chat. It's pinned to the top. So if you haven't renewed or joined, head to that link at the top and you can sign up actually right now directly from there. So giving away what you guys got: a t-shirt as part of it, a mug, Pyke gift card. What else is in there? I don't even. You guys there?
Silence.
No, I've lost everyone.
I thought
radio silence. You don't want dead air, right?
There's brand new decal that's coming along with it, which is going to be a little different than the typical one that you might have gotten in the past. It's black and white circle. And also it's an annual subscription to Covers magazine that kind of gives, you know, sort of a digested format of what's going on in the organization with all of our members.
Okay.
And at some levels,
So, yeah, we got
cooler too. So that's pretty.
Yeah, we got that link right up there. So go ahead and click on that. It's pinned to the top in the chat. All right. Who's up? Let's hear from Nick, since he's kind of our local guy here, right? I mean, a couple of you guys are all local, but Nick being our regional guy here. So
all right, thanks.
Nick, I'll let you
Dave.
Introduce yourself and kind of tell everyone what you got going.
Yeah, my name is Nick Bougie. I'm the Regional Engagement Coordinator for RGS. As Glenn said, I cover Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Relatively new position within the organization. We've got one in every region we have. So if you're in Minnesota, Washington, Iowa, Sam Tillman is yours. Gabe Stone has Wisconsin. Nate Kennedy's up in the Northeast. Grant is in the Appalachian region. And I believe we just hired a replacement for Lisa Rossi, who started. Her name's Emily. I haven't met her yet. But we've got my position in every region. So feel free to reach out. What we do is serve as a resource for the chapters. Glenn kind of had my position before. He's focusing more on development and corporate relations. So we're here to help serve the chapters, help meet their needs, communicate between the chapters and headquarters and the chapters. Sort of post-COVID, we've really been focusing on rebuilding and strengthening chapters. There's been a lot of chapters that have kind of went dormant. A lot of chapters that maybe have some turnover in committee membership. And so what we're looking to do is the banquets are, they're just as important as ever. But they're not the end all be all. So we've really focused on birds and brews, shoots, maybe some other events. We realize that there's chapters out there that might not be able to put on a full-blown banquet like they have in the past, and that's okay. We're here to help and kind of create an event that you can do. So we've done some virtual events. We're looking at expanding some dog training events that we've had in a number of states. And so if you guys have ideas as members for something that would work for your chapter and your community, we're more than open to that. We're looking for sort of unique, new, creative ideas to get folks engaged. We want to sort of build a stronger community and not just a group of folks that show up to a banquet once a year. We really do want to have that sense of community, that networking, so you can talk to fellow hunters, learn from them, make friends, go hunting, things like that. A couple of things I do want to mention. So we are working on sort of a chapter manual that hopefully will be presented later this year. We really want to work on communication. That's one thing I've heard a lot from chapters is we really need to work on the communication. And so I know at least in my region, we're trying to do quarterly crowdcasts to give members an opportunity to ask questions, to hear updates, and providing some sort of a manual that will serve as a go-to if people have questions. Hey, this is, these are the do's, these are the don'ts. Who do you call? A flow chart type of thing. But we don't only do that. I know in the Appalachian region, they're heavily involved in a lot of policy. They've done a lot of action alerts. I myself was in Columbus last week testifying in front of their Natural Resource Commission on grouse season and bag limits. So everything from events to policy, it's wide ranging. A couple new events we have. I know Wisconsin last year kind of reinvigorated their grouse hunt. That's going to be September 22nd to the 24th again this year. Here in Michigan, we've partnered with Her Upland. We're hosting an event at Hillsdale College, which is home to the Olympic Shooting Center. So we're going to be having women from all over the country come. I believe they're going to talk with, folks from RGS, Onyx, Her Upland, get some shooting instruction from Olympic shooters and feel a little bit more confident in the outdoors. So that's just a little tidbit of what we've got going on, but we're really here to serve as a resource for the chapters. And, feel free, if you haven't heard from us, feel free to reach out. We'd be more than happy to talk to you.
Nice. So I'm gonna ask one question here that's from Michigan. So maybe a couple of you can answer this, but someone asked, is RGS coordinating with forestry planning on national forests, in the state as well as state forest lands? Is there plans for that?
I could probably hop in and take that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, Larry
we'll just let you go next then.
Staying in Michigan, it's a good segue. So yeah, I'm Larry Partridge.
Yeah,
I am the Forest Conservation Coordinator here in the state of Michigan. Tonight, kind of speaking on behalf for John Steigerwald, our Forest Conservation Director for kind of the upper Midwest and Lake states. But yeah, right now that's a big priority. As Glenn had mentioned, we're really growing right now. I've been in this role for about 6 months. I have a counterpart in Minnesota that does a similar role as me, who's been here for about a year. But from a few years ago, we went from, I think, just a handful of staff in Wisconsin to being represented in pretty much all of the Great Lakes states and we just hired a new position in Western UP and a couple more are happening in Wisconsin right now. That being said, in each given state, we're kind of working with the targets available to us to help us meet our objectives. So depending on the legislative or conservation political climate, we find ourselves kind of working with a different model in each area. And particularly in Michigan, we are very much cooperating and coordinating with both the Forest Service on the Huron, Manistee, the Hiawatha, and the Ottawa. We have multiple projects on all of the forests. We're working in direct cooperation with the Forest Service and also with the state. We're right now in the process of putting some proposals together to do work on the Pigeon River, on various state game areas, working directly for woodcock habitat in partnership with Pheasants Forever. So yeah, we are very much in coordination with the state and federal agencies as far as working with them to help them meet their conservation objectives, but also allowing them to facilitate us coming in and helping meet our rough grouse woodcock oriented objectives within those properties.
Nice. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the Manistee National Forest, and it is sorely overlooked as far as management nowadays.
Yeah,
you know, I started hunting it 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It was really great, and now it's just kind of lacking attention.
Yeah, and right now we're working with them on it's called their Zone Aspen project, and you nailed it on the head. Like, all of their aspen is, since the paper dumped out in the 90s, all the aspen is 30 years undermanaged. So we are working with them to really accelerate the amount of aspen acreage we're getting harvested within a single year.
Very nice. That's awesome. It's good to hear. I know from my perspective, at least. I think other
Same
people
here.
in here probably say the same thing.
And Dave, if I can interject in there, I think
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons, and Kevin and Brent, Brent spoke to it, is why membership's so important, not getting back to the membership drive. But the Zone Aspen Project, or ZAP as it's known in the Huron-Manistee Forest, where it's projected 35,000 acres of aspen to be cut over the next 10 years, that they've brought RGS into the project. One of the leading proponents and impetuses for this project to get pushed through was RGS members from Muskegon, the Brent's home chapter, Grand Rapids, members from Traverse City, but people that reached out to the Federal Forest Service and said, we want this to happen. And so we had that voice. And I think as you see why membership's important, whether you get your RGS information through Covers Magazine, which is an award-winning magazine that Brittany Booth edits, or through Instagram or Facebook or however, our communication's really growing thanks to Kevin and other people to get that message out there more and more. So by becoming a member, by being part of the family, you'll see these opportunities going forward. So I'll mute myself and shut up again.
You're good. You're good. All right, let's pass it over to Todd Waldron from the Northeast and let him kind of give a little overview of what's happening up there and what he's got going on in that region.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Brent, it's great to be here. I echo Glenn's thoughts. And my name's Todd Waldron. I'm the Northeast Forest Conservation Director for Rough Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society. I'm based in snowy northern New York. We've got a couple of feet of snow on the ground right now, so there's no timber doodles here yet. Seen a lot in northern New Jersey, the Catskills, Pennsylvania. So within a couple of weeks, it's an exciting time, and we should see the woodcock migration hit north again. I work on projects, on forest conservation projects and partnerships in New York and New England. So from Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. And I've been spending my whole life in conservation. This is year 28, I think, and joined RGS in 2021, and it's been full steam ahead. It's been great to be a part of this team and to see the growth on the conservation side. We operate on the forest conservation level in, I think, 5 different regions. So Larry out in the Michigan, Eastern Great Lakes region, and John Steigerwald, King of the North in Wisconsin with Western Great Lakes, and the Mid-Atlantic, Ben Larson, Nick B. Miller down in the Southern Apps. So it's a really good team of professionals that have been working at this for a long time. Our conservation impact is leveraging up. And I think one thing people just don't know, if you're outside the Northeast, how many opportunities there are, how many forests we've got. We've got 50 million acres of forest across the New York and New England. So a huge swath of forest, really great hunting opportunities. If you're a reader and you've read anything like Burton Spiller, Grouse Feathers, like the classic old days of grouse hunting, is right here in New England. We've got some challenges, it's like my colleagues say, there's a sea of sameness with our forests. So we've got a lot of forest land, but we really need to work on the diversity for birds and wildlife. So we're cranking down on that. And, you're in an area where there's big population centers too. So there's all the forestry work that you're doing is around an optic, people are watching that. And so, we have a couple of national forests that we're doing some partnerships with. The Green Mountain National Forest in Vermont is 400,000 acres. I'm going to be over there tomorrow at a stakeholders meeting advocating for some of the habitat projects that they're working on. They've got some great stuff. They just launched a 12,000 acre early successional habitat project last year, and they're scoping out, another similar size habitat project called Telephone Gap right now. And RGS is advocating for that. And so, lots of opportunities there, working with state agencies in Massachusetts, and, ramping things up in New Hampshire. Got some exciting projects through National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, NIFWIF, in Northern New York and Vermont, where we're working on forest blocks. And I would say, like, if you're watching this and you're in the Northeast and you're not an RGS and AWS member, we got like something like 12 or 13 chapters here in the Northeast. So I was just over in Vermont, up in Burlington and Colchester Saturday night at the Green Mountain chapter banquet. Kudos to them. I mean, 120, 130 people were there. Great event. We're going to be down in Westchester County this weekend at Mount Kisco at a wild game dinner. So there's like a lot of cool stuff going on with our chapters in the Northeast. And it's a great time to be a part of the team. And you can find us online at our website if you're here and you want to hook up and be a member and get involved with some of our chapters.
Nice. I got a question for Todd, since we were talking kind of before we started the live here, where he's up in Lake Placid, which I was up a long time ago, and I was kind of a new grouse hunter at the time, so I didn't really pay attention to the landscape necessarily. Is there a lot of opportunity up in your area directly, or is it, you got to get out of the mountains to find birds up there?
Yeah, there's some great hunting opportunities across the northern forest, Dave. So as it stretches out from north, Lake Placid's kind of in the northern Adirondack region, which is a 6 million acre mountainous region in northern New York. And as you get north of there, across the St. Lawrence Valley in New York and over into the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, into the Great North Woods of New Hampshire, and all the way into Western Maine, you have this similar habitat where you've got a great mix of northern hardwoods and spruce fir, and good habitat mosaics, a history of forest management with former paper company lands. So it's a little bit of a drive for the folks in Boston or New York to go way up north, but there's some pretty cool stuff there. We're trying to bring some of that habitat closer to people too, so we're working in the Catskills, within a couple hours, an hour and a half of New York City. We've got some projects that we're working on.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Nick. All right. I think that leaves Kevin. And is he muted? Oh, there he is.
All right, good to go. So
Kevin.
what were you going to say, Dave?
Oh, no, I was just going to say welcome, Kevin. And like I said, I'm kind of getting to know everyone here at the same time. Just haven't met most of you in person. So other than Brent and Glenn, haven't really had interactions. So just trying to learn a little bit about what everyone does here.
Sure. So I think it's worth noting, for the sake of membership, I kind of got into RGS through NAVDA, where, I was had my first bird dog, and everyone in my NAVDA chapter started talking about grouse hunting. And I, had no idea what that was. So I said, what's grouse hunting? And like, well, you're going to hunt grouse, you have to join RGS and AWS. So kind of checked it out. And my professional background was in design and technology and marketing. So, 3 years ago, I started picking up a couple of kind of odd job contracts with RGS. They just kept escalating, to the point where now, as you said in the beginning, I'm kind of piloting a lot of the outgoing communications through social media, and some of the, not all, but some of the marketing communications that go through email. But I think kind of the exciting part for me as the non-forestry professional on sort of this call and the team is I sit in on all the forestry calls so that I can try and communicate that to the layperson. And, you know, again, as a member, when I came into RGS, I wanted to know, well, what's going on in my region. So, you know, just to highlight, 2 years ago, we made like regional pages. So the intent of that was to have a hub where you can go on the page and say, okay, I'm in the Northeast. Who is my staff? And it's got their emails and phone number right there. So if I want to say, you know, can you help me with a private project on my land? Call them, you know, at worst they say is no, or maybe they can help you out. We also included project maps. Again, the idea being, I feel like members want to know what's going on closest to them most of all. So we have maps that talk about, you know, what's going on. And sometimes there's details, sometimes there's just kind of like projected things happening. And then also internal news in the way of blogs, and then in events, there's a feed for events. And then in the way of third-party media. So if RGS in, like, you know, as an example, in the Southeast, they just had some of our staff spoke at like a local town meeting about the importance of mixed age class forest. Like, we wanted those regional pages to be like a one shot of, okay, you know, I'm a member, what's happening for me? And it's all kind of right there. So, you know, it's fascinating to me sitting on all the calls. Every region has to operate differently because they're all operating in different legal environments and maturity of the industry, you know, environments. So like, I was in a call with Todd the other day, and you know, there are windows in which we're allowed to execute some of these projects. And then sometimes there's not machinery to do the projects in some of the regions because it's all booked up. So, you know, you basically have to get on a waiting list that could be multiple years long because you're waiting for specific things to happen. And that, you know, in the Great Lakes, like, that's not an issue because timber is such an enormous industry out there. But, you know, they've got their own environment that they have to operate in. And, but, you know, for the regions that don't have staff here tonight, you know, I can speak to Mid-Atlantic. I mean, a lot of things are happening in Pennsylvania. Like we posted recently, again, if you go to the regional page, you'll see that they've gotten a lot of funding through what's called NIFWIF, and also some Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop grants. And it's basically multiple partner projects where they're getting funding, and there's private landowners that are coming on board, and the state is coming on board, and universities are coming on board. And so, you know, again, the idea of a mosaic where if you look at the project maps, they're checkerboards of, okay, well, this hunt club owns land next to this private landowner, next to this Pennsylvania state land. And what you basically try to do is get them all under the same management strategy so that, you know, it's basically not, you know, conflicting. A lot of chapters are coming up in the Mid-Atlantic, like in West Virginia. I know a lot of that has been activated. And again, like exactly as Glenn said, through membership, West Virginia recently had a bill where forestry funding was on the table. And so we tried to do our best to tell people, hey, look, you need to jump on board and share your opinion. And last I heard, I think that funding had passed. So again, like, that's case in point when our members show up to bat, especially in, you know, in places where maybe a lot of people are, you know, they might not have any opposition to it, but they don't know if people actually want it. And so it's great that we can do that. And Southern Appalachian region, those guys are gangbusters. You know, it's in RGS's 62-year history, there's never been that much of a staff in that region as there are now. And it used to always be like someone from Pennsylvania would travel to that region to do projects. And so Kentucky, Tennessee, and North Carolina all have stewardship projects on different tracts of land that are all either just started or starting. And again, if you go to the regional page, you'll see the basically our rundown of the Nantahala-Pisgah National Forest, like basically like how we react to the strategy that was put in place there. But that team has just grown significantly over, you know, the past 2 or 3 years, and continues to grow. Like, they're still hiring. I think in Georgia, I believe they have an open position. But again, you know, from someone who manages our outgoing communications, it's a challenge not to say it all at once and to basically try to bandwidth it so it doesn't overwhelm people. But there's no shortage of stuff to talk about, and really doesn't show signs of stopping right now. And to give just a quick member update, which I hope it's an indication that people are excited about what we're doing. So, for us, like a member drive, like a good member drive maybe is like 800 new members in like a finite period of time. And we're only a third of the way through this drive. And when I checked right before the call, we're just under 650 that have come in the past week. So with 2 weeks left, this could be our biggest spring drive that we've had. So thank you to everybody who's renewed or come on board for the first time. And I hope it's a testament of like I use the term like rising tide lifts all ships a lot. And I hope it's a lot of people in our organization are just firing on all cylinders and trying to produce their best work and trying to collaborate and make sure that we're member oriented and that what we deliver has the people who are putting their faith in us in mind.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you're helping get the message out there, Kevin, because I know it's important for, people to hear it, not only from, just a local chapter or whatever, but seeing stuff coming on the national level. I know that's important to a lot of people and keeping up with what's happening. And I think it just helps with overall engagement and in getting members as people can actually see and hear, what exactly is happening. I think that's huge. Let's go. We got a few questions on the board here. Let's try to touch on a couple of them if we could.
Dave, if I could jump in and I think I'm going to kick this to Todd. We had a couple questions come in on the Superior National Forest as well as the Daniel Boone. And across all of our forest conservation directors, these stewardship programs on federal forests are really, really important. Not only here on Manistee, where Larry's spending a lot of his time here in Michigan, but Nick B. Miller in the Southern Apps and the Daniel Boone and the Moose Collaborative in Minnesota. So I think Todd, being a forest conservation director, albeit not in his bailiwick, can you tell us a little bit about the stewardship programs with the Forest Service and how we're leveraging those monies and what we're doing there, Todd?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Glenn. The Forest Service is a great partner, and there's just been enormous opportunity to work with them across our operating regions. So as you mentioned, John and Larry are working in the Great Lakes states. There's been stewardship agreements on everywhere from the Chippewa, over into Michigan, and then, into the Mid-Atlantic, the Monongahela in West Virginia, the Boone in Kentucky, down into North Carolina, the Cherokee in Tennessee. And so, the shared stewardship agreements are set up in a way where we can partner with the Forest Service to leverage more conservation impact as a partner than they would be if it was just a straight up timber sale. So it's like happening where we're partnering with them on some of their sustainable timber harvests. We're incorporating stewardship, like putting back in hunter access trails, like on the case of the Chippewa or maybe of the Boone. Maybe there's some woody additions and streams. And so it's value added where we're using funding from the timber sales. We're contracting with the Forest Service. We're kind of a third party partner there. And we're able to recirculate that money right back onto the ground. And we're able to recirculate some of that money that came from a timber sale into more habitat impact, and then helping us with our capacity as well. And that's something that, there's opportunity across the regions. I'm looking at those opportunities right now, working with our partners on the Green Mountain National Forest in Vermont, looking at those opportunities in the early successional habitat creation project. So really good opportunity. It allows us to leverage habitat impact far further than Either partner could do alone, and we're just getting scaled up. And there's been a lot of exciting conversations, both on a regional level and a state level with our respective national forests, and also on a national level. They like what RGS is doing and what we have in terms of capacity and expertise in forest conservation. And I think there's going to be some great things ahead with the Forest Service in the next year or two.
Awesome. I'll throw out another one here. This one is for Todd. Again, is RGS AWS involved in any woodcock banding projects on the Finger Lakes National?
Yeah, I'm excited about this. So this is one of my favorite topics. So one of the coolest things we do in the Northeast is we support the Eastern Woodcock Migration Research Cooperative. And you can check that out at woodcockmigration.org. And so it's a collaboration out of, I think, at the University of Maine with Dr. Amber Roth and Dr. Eric Blomberg. And there's some different universities, University of Rhode Island. There's a whole bunch of state agencies like DEC. And, our role, we've supported that project in a couple of ways. On the Finger Lakes, we just helped the Forest Service and the New York State Forest Agency, it's called DEC, purchase a piece of equipment called FLIR. It's basically like an infrared camera that finds the birds, that allows the banding and the tracking to happen. So what they do is it's almost like heat sensing cameras. They can find the birds, and then they can set up with their, professionally trained folks that are banding and like GPS tracking and collaring, the radio tracking and stuff like that. So we've helped with equipment. I haven't done any banding myself. I'd love to do that and get that expertise and that experience. We've also supported over in Maine some research science positions where, our chapters, the Russ and Carol Dyer chapter, Central Maine chapter, they put in their money that they raise at their banquets, and we've been able to match that with other funding to hire a PhD position that's taking that project further down the road and looking at what woodcock do in the winter, what the mortality rates are, where they are, what's coming along, with the times that they come back. And so we're learning every day. And it's woodcockmigration.org. If you want to check it out, it's awesome. And we're glad to support it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun banding. I've been out a few times with some guys. I don't have the dogs for it, but it's pretty cool to see the birds and actually watch the hens kind of get defensive and hover around you like a helicopter, like just behavior you don't see in the fall when you're hunting them. It's pretty cool. Larry, you want to touch on a couple of the questions there?
Yeah, I had seen that Dan and Adam had kind of brought up private landowner management. And I guess it depends on where Dan's property is. As I mentioned before, we're kind of working within the framework of what kind of these states and regions present us for opportunities to work with and partner with other organizations. And so in Michigan, we're heavily reliant on working with the Forest Service and with the state on public lands. But the environment in Wisconsin offered us something completely different. So our 4 or 5 wildlife specialists over there work almost exclusively through a partnership with NRCS on private landowner, like discrete properties and projects. So if you're in Wisconsin, look up your local RGS resources and they will be able to help you with that. That's on the wish list here in Michigan, as far as Adam's question regarding the Eastern UP. But it looks like you've already worked with a forester, and if you have a forest management plan in place, that's half of the infrastructure. But if you want to, you can always reach directly out to me for input or further resources. We're kind of here as a broad resource for our user groups. I probably won't write a management plan for you, but can definitely put you in the right direction to get a management plan developed. And if you just want kind of some detail work looked at, I can certainly consult and advise on your property as far as what are the right things to do for bird management.
Awesome. I got one other one we passed up here that's specifically for Nick. And it's what plans or projects are in place for Indiana, the forests in Indiana. I know it's a big hot button
Yeah.
issue, but probably important to talk about.
Yeah, and I kind of mentioned it in chat. So in Indiana, we are planning on having a virtual meeting. It's a statewide chapter, so we're doing it virtually on April 11th. If you haven't received, or you wouldn't have received an invite for that yet, it hasn't gone out, but keep an eye out for it. We're planning on kind of restructuring the chapter, getting it re-engaged, and kind of talking that night what the future holds for events and projects. Indiana is one of those tough states to work in. Prior to me coming to RGS, I worked for another nonprofit where I also covered Indiana for 5 years. Forestry wise, it is a tough state. There are you think about cutting a tree and there are protesters in the state of Indiana. We have a lot of work there to do just on the education side to let people know that, we all want the same things, right? We want a healthy forest, but you have to understand what a healthy forest is. It's not a vast landscape of 120-year-old trees. We need some 120-year-old trees, but in the meantime, you have all these songbirds and salamanders and butterflies that rely on young trees that are disappearing from the landscape. So it's very much sort of a political football right now in Indiana, where we're engaging a lot politically more than actually cutting down trees, but it's top of mind, and we're looking for every opportunity there. And one thing I want to interject, if we have time, maybe Kevin could talk about. I know a lot of these questions we've highlighted on our website. Not that we're opposed to talking about it. Like I said, one thing I think, especially in my position, we're trying to get better at is better communication. We really need to communicate with the members what's going on. But I think Kevin's done a great job on the website, and a lot of this stuff. If you want to know what's going on, there's regional pages, and it talks about what we're doing in Superior and what we're doing in the Daniel Boone and all over the country. And so my guess is probably people just don't know that exists on our website. So I don't know, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind elaborating, just highlighting kind of that resource.
Yeah, sure. So basically on the site, there's a tab that says conservation. And when you click that, it has every region by name, and you can drill down into the region. And then if there are specific project details available on the map, it'll say learn more on that project point. And then every region has like its project detail page. And if there are particular articles written about the topic, we have the most recent show up on the regional page, or if you just navigate over to the blog, you can view like everything in the Northeast or Mid-Atlantic or whatever region you're interested in. And so we didn't mention it before, but something else we kind of did in recent years is there's like a really easy chapter search tool where it's a whole map of the country, and every chapter has a pin for it. And you can look by the map or you can look by state, and it has all the contact info. So whether you're a new member or, a veteran member, getting plugged into your local chapter is a great way to, and again, some chapters are excellent at communicating what's happening in their local areas to their, constituents as well. So.
Kevin, if I could just piggyback on what you said there, I think that, we know there's a lot of new people getting into grouse hunting, and let's face it, it's the most challenging upland bird to hunt for many reasons. One, they're not always in the same spot. I mean, you can go hunt them today and there's 50 of them in there, and you go there 2 days later and there's 0. And one thing I would implore a lot of these young people that, maybe just not even young, just new people to grouse hunting, join an RGS chapter. There are lots of guys in there that would be willing to take you out hunting and show you, where to go hunting and what habitat to look for. And the resources you can get from giving back is unbelievable. I would say RGS has given me far more than I've given them over the years from that type of a standpoint. So again, for people that are new, looking on the outside or on the outside looking in, join, get involved. You can learn a lot of stuff from some of these guys that have been doing it. Like, Glenn's been grouse hunting for 40 years. I've been grouse hunting for 25 years. I mean, we're willing to help you. If you're willing to come donate some of your time, I'll donate some of my time and kind of show you some spots and show you how to find grouse. So I mean, for the new guys, that's a bit of advice I'd give you out there.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I would piggyback on that too. I'm just looking beyond the website, Kevin. What sort of, I don't know. Let's talk a little bit like future dreaming that RGS has for education of people that, again, they're not hearing it necessarily here or at a local chapter or whatever. What kind of things are you guys trying to dream up that would help educate people and kind of get the message out there, especially in a place like Indiana, like you said, where it's a big political battle. So you're not just educating the hunters, you're trying to educate the non-hunters, if anything. What is there anything on the horizon for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to sound funny saying it, but like I started making memes about forestry, that are just one snippet images, and I usually try to make them funny so that people can see them and basically digest something. But it kind of, like, as I sit in on all the calls and I'm trying to get my head around what's going on in the areas and what the challenges are, I think that people have no problem when we say oh, we're going to manage watersheds. Oh, that's great. Or we're going to manage oceans. That's great. We're going to manage grasslands. Perfect. We're going to manage air quality. That's awesome. We're going to manage forests. And then, what do you mean by that? And so I think sort of basically crossing that Rubicon of there are advantages to treating forests as a thing that can be managed. And again, not all forests are created equal. So what is the most optimal healthy forest? And again, kind of for the non-hunter, maybe you want to say the olive branch. So rather than having animosity, oh, why don't you know how this forest works? But okay, so what are the things that you can agree about? Is that managing something for the health of all of its participants is a good thing. So, what does that look like in forests? And it doesn't because our opposition, what they will do is show you a clear cut and say, this is what they want to do. But they never show you a year later when it's a vibrant, young forest or meadow, and it's filled with life. So I think that's kind of, we have to, keep people honest to some degree. It's not to go down the rabbit hole of it, but it was a National Geographic article that one of our opposing entities had kind of presented in the Southern Appalachian region. And the National Geographic author had said, well, hunters like young forests because they're easy to walk through and it makes it easier to track their prey. And I put it on my own social media, a picture of a young forest and a picture of an old hardwood. And I said, tell me you've never seen a young forest without telling me you've not seen a young forest. I mean, it's not how the game works. That's basically academic dishonesty, I think. So I'm trying to have fun with it. I feel people who are not scientists can only handle so much science. So if you can basically create a way for them to visualize oh, okay, this is a good idea that we make a mosaic of trees, and that's a good thing. So that's kind of what I would anticipate. So that still kind of ties into website and social media, but I feel we have to, one, capture more upland hunters who are into upland hunting but haven't joined RGS and AWS yet, and then basically think also about, and this kind of ties in a lot of what was said, is I saw one of the questions was about moose. Again, I don't think we've released details on it yet, but RGS is working on projects with Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, National Wild Turkey Foundation, Quail Forever, National Deer Association. So those are all tangential hunting groups that are coming to us because we're the people that you go to get things done in the forest. A lot of people can do it, but I'm going to toot our horn in that regard for that. So
awesome. Yeah, I think that's widely important. Just again, you don't need to educate the hunters, you need to educate the people that aren't hunting And, again, like you said, don't come across as, I know more than you and the mean guy. But yeah, I mean, people, it's amazing once you tell them all the benefits of a young forest, how easily they can change their mind, for sure. So
I do know
let's see.
Indiana. Oops, sorry. I was just gonna say
Yeah, go ahead.
Indiana's done a great job of that. They've worked with their local DNR to take legislators out and kind of give them a tour. And they'll be standing, the left side of the trail will be a managed forest, the right side of the trail won't be. And they'll ask the legislators, what looks better to you? Can you, what's different? Or they'll take it to an area that's been selectively harvested and they'll say, can you tell me what side his tree's been cut down on? And it's kind of cool to see them not only be able to not tell where trees have been cut, but also they usually like the look of the forest that's been managed than the forest that hasn't been managed. And so, things like that. And I'll just add one thing I think we do need to work on educating is the need to do work on private lands. That, we all want to do work on land that we have access to. I'm guilty of that as well. But east of the Mississippi and rough grouse country, you're not going to get that population level results without kind of incorporating private lands. So that's something that I think we need to work on as well.
All right. Anyone
Yeah,
have
to
any?
piggyback on what you're saying there, I think that, as grouse hunters, we always want all the habitat work done on areas that we can hunt, right? And but it's important for those birds to have areas to go to that is a sanctuary as well. And and if even those guys hunt it themselves, they're not going to put the pressure on it that the general public is. And those birds are not, they're not in a fence there. They're gonna move over to the adjacent public lands here and there, and they're gonna raise chicks in that private ground. And I think that the private ground gets a bad, people get a bad taste in their mouth because they feel like they're not getting their fair share of it. But I mean, it's, you gotta think outside the box a little bit and be aware that, we need to do some work on private ground as well too, especially if we can get those private landowners to get paid for doing work on their property. That's good for all of us. RGS is either making money on it or at least, not losing money on it. And, it's helping the birds out. That's a win for everybody. So.
Yeah, I think for sure. Especially if you can somehow, even if it's not making money, if you can find a way so they don't have to pay to have it done, I think there'd be a lot more incentive for private landowners to say, yeah, come through. I've got 300 acres. I'll let you tackle 100 of it. And, as long as it doesn't cost me anything and it's going to help the wildlife on my property, that'd be a great way to go about it.
We had that. I'll just comment. We had that situation happen in one of our regions, which is a private landowner. So I'll be kind of loose on the details, but the person wanted a particular process done on their land and was looking for grant money to have that done. And, reached out to RGS and we said, realistically, you're not going to get a grant to do that, but you got a lot of nice timber. So why don't we just do a timber cut for you? And the guy ended up making money, was able to then pay to have the process done that he wanted to have done. And the RGS made money too. So everybody won. And Brent, like what you said about, it's good for grouse to have a sanctuary. When the broods break up, they can go up to 4 miles apart. So if you have private land that is across from, huntable land, or even, 2 to 4 miles down the road, that benefits hunters because it gives the birds a place to reproduce, that the birds are then going to spread into a place, or maybe it is public access.
Awesome. There's only one other question that came through and I don't really know. Gundog Central asked, says heard Tennessee mentioned a few times, but he's wondering if there's birds down that way. He's specifically mentioning woodcock, but I guess I don't really know that area that well. So did woodcock go through, and is there huntable birds down in West Tennessee?
So specific areas, I can't tell you. I definitely recommend reach out to the Southern Apps, reach out to the Southern Apps staff, but for every time we get someone writing in saying there's no birds in X place, I'll get a bunch of private messages on our social channels that are like, here's me shooting birds in that place. That people kind of say it. So, and I'm not trying to rub it in people's faces, but you know, the birds can be found in a lot of places that they're not supposed to be.
I hunted Eastern Kentucky one time for grouse, and we chased the bird we named Stan all over the place. Never shot him, but we chased that one bird a lot of places. All right. I haven't had any other questions come through. Does anyone else have anything they want to touch on before we move to our trivia here and give away a gift card?
I just want to thank
Yeah.
Pyke for having us here tonight and being a corporate sponsor, for inviting us in on behalf of our staff that's on screen tonight and our staff throughout the hinterlands. We want to thank all the viewers for watching. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to us, and we'll certainly get back to you. So,
For sure.
Thank
And again, for anyone watching that hasn't signed up for a membership, renewed or joined, that link to join directly with the spring membership drive we're doing right now is at the top of the chat. When does that end? When's the end of our drive?
March 31st.
March
March
the
31st.
end of the month.
So yep. So only just about a week left to get in on that. So head to that link now and sign up if you haven't. I got one more question before we go here. Does RGS money go directly to private landowners, or is RGS strictly consult with private landowners? I guess I don't.
In a way, I think that would.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, that would.
Yeah,
partially
they're asking.
piggyback
Does
off of,
yeah.
off of the previous question, partnering with the NRCS to kind of help facilitate NRCS funds, because us as an NGO, there's no way to really, and there's no sense in funneling kind of this collective money back into private landowner projects, but there are federal programs available for landowners. And in Wisconsin, we work directly with the NRCS to facilitate our private lands program that is heavily subsidized by the EQIP program and promoting the EQIP program. But some NRCS districts are more organized and coordinated than others. And we just found within Wisconsin a very healthy partnership with NRCS, where it just has not grown out as it has there in some other places. But we are exploring other options to kind of create some sort of private landowner delivery program to kind of support our chapter members and our user groups in their own personal pursuits.
Yeah, that's right, Larry. And I would add, like in the Northeast here, with the partnership through American Bird Conservancy, Indiana University of PA, we have working lands for wildlife positions in New York and Vermont, which are NRCS positions. So they're helping private landowners through Northern New York. They're helping private landowners through Western Vermont and the Champlain region. Connecting the dots is really what they're doing between the funding pools that are available through the USDA programs, Farm Bill programs, and then translating that into habitat on the ground for private landowners. And what's really exciting is there's a lot of money coming down the pike for those kinds of programs. You know, NRCS is well funded through BIL and IRA funding. There's a lot of opportunity for growth in that partnership, and that's going to translate for more opportunity for private landowners throughout our operating regions as well.
But just to clarify, Larry and Todd, we're using our staff to find available state and federal dollars. We're not, money from banquets and things like that are not going to private land.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Just to clear,
Yep.
make that
Yep.
a little more, on the nose. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We're just connecting the dots with the federal and other funding that's available.
All right. Oh, Glenn, you wanna give us our trivia question here? I'll say this, how it's gonna go. Glenn's gonna ask a question, and the first person to put the correct answer in the chat will win the $100 gift card. So Glenn, what's our big question for the night?
I was asked to come up with a trivia question regarding this, and the one that popped into my head is, in what state was the Rough Grouse Society founded?
I know. I think it's come up at things before, so we'll see who pops in first here. What state was the Rough Grouse Society founded? What?
Everybody's Googling right now.
Yeah, everyone's Googling
Why don't you throw out some other interesting facts to us, Glenn?
Wrong answer. Streaming in.
What?
Wrong answers.
Throw
Wrong answers
another
coming
couple
through.
I love hearing like interesting facts, like the longest woodcock migration is, or
Well, when I don't know the longest woodcock migration, but the most interesting woodcock migration fact that I know of is there was a bird banded in Newaygo County, Michigan, near Bitely, Michigan, that flew due east and landed. This is when we first put transponders or GPS units on it. Landed in the shore of Lake Huron. That then flew across Lake Huron into Ontario. Then flew downriver from Ontario, hung out in the greater suburb of Detroit before migrating back to the south.
I'll be damned.
And that was
crazy.
That was one of the birds that was captured here in Western Michigan. But we think we know so much about that, but that bird flew all the way to the shores of Lake Huron, then across Huron to Ontario, then hung out in Detroit. Why would any woodcock hang out in Detroit?
The pizza.
The pizza, exactly. The deep dish.
There's guys that down by the Renaissance Center in downtown Detroit every year that find dead woodcock that have hit the building.
Oh yeah,
and just land next to it. So they're coming across.
Wasn't there a study that said that like the most environmentally unfriendly aspect of the woodcock migration was New York City? The number of birds that they find each year in the city that hit glasses, or buildings. Todd, you could possibly answer that better than I.
Yeah, there's always occurrences, and there's always a whole bunch of Instagram posts when people see them in Central Park as well, when they're just, coming through. So
cool.
If you don't know what that bird is, pardon? Yeah, I think we do. So Glenn, what's our answer?
It is Virginia.
Virginia. Do you know what city? Where was it at? Do you know?
I do not know the city off the top of my head. I just know it was Virginia.
I think it was Winchester, Virginia. Or
I believe you're right.
Somewhere, yeah.
I think Mike Patera.
Appropriate. Winchester.
Or thereabouts, somewhere close to Winchester. Maybe not.
So.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We hope to do a few more of these throughout the year and maybe get some of the other gentlemen's counterparts from other areas of the country to talk about what they've got going on. As you can see, there's lots of really exciting stuff happening at RGS, and we're at Pyke super proud to be supporting that in every way we possibly can. We're a small company, but we're doing our best to support conservation any way we possibly can. And thank you guys for taking some time out of your evening to come chat with folks and hopefully give them some good education on what all's going on and what's going to be going on and how they can help. So thank you guys for joining us this evening, and look forward to doing this again. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely got to do more of these. And you guys said you have some more virtual events coming up, correct?
Yeah, I think so, Nick.
Yeah, I think we've got a few more virtual events. I know I've talked with my counterparts in other states and they'd be very interested in hopping on. If Pike Gear would like to do more of these, they'd be happy to fill some of the slots.
Awesome. And then you guys have one this week in Grand Rapids, correct?
Yeah, the Grand Rapids Bird and Brew is Thursday night, and then we have our Woodcock Walk coming up in April. And then Nick has a banquet. The Lytle chapter banquet is in Emily City this Saturday night. So
And they're
then
having a
we
Woodcock walk in Port Huron. So if you're on the other side of the state, Port Huron State Game Area, April 5th, which is on the website.
Dave, who was
I
our
got a
winner?
good spot. His name is Mike Patera.
All right. Did he leave you his email address so we can send him a gift card?
Yeah, I just told him. Oh, yep, he's got to send me an email. Yep.
Perfect. All right.
Nick, I got a spot too, pretty close outside of Metro Detroit here, where I go every year and watch woodcock in the evening. So if anyone wants to, if you ever want to organize something like that over this way, let me know. Pretty easy spot to get to, and there's always birds, probably 3-4 birds dancing at the same time there. So
Yeah. Oh, that'd be good. I'll get a hold of you.
So awesome.
Ready to sign off?
Yeah, thank you to everyone that joined. We had a lot of people on here, a lot of people chatting with us, and hopefully everyone learned some things. And again, if you got questions beyond this, all these guys' email addresses are available on the RGS website, roughgrowsociety.org, and they can definitely discuss your questions further with you, especially if you have land questions or whatever. Reach out to these guys, and they're, I'm sure, be glad to help you out. And I thank you guys for joining us and taking your time out of your evening to be with us tonight. This is it's been fun, and hopefully you get to do some more things like this in the future.
Yeah,
thank you for the
Dave. Thanks, Brent.
What's up, Dave?
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it. We're going to sign off. And again, thank you to everyone that joined us on the live. And it'll be up here. It'll be on our site on the YouTube channel for a while. And I'll actually post it up on our Facebook, the Pike Facebook page by tomorrow also, if you want to catch it there. So, all right, guys. Good night. Thanks for joining us.
thank you.
Good there, Dave?
Yep. Hold on. Shut the live down here.